That's excellent, Carol. Thank you. Anyway, here I am with Carol Drinkwater, who's such an accomplished individual. Her merits. Anybody who knows Carol will know that she's done such a lot with her career and continues to do a lot. From being an actress in a very famous TV series through to a whole series of books about her adventures in France and also some educational books. But we'll talk about that later. First of all, can I just say hello, Carol?
Hello, hello. Thank you very
Uh,
much for inviting me along.
I'm so pleased you accepted. I really am. Well, I always ask people what drew them to the Riviera. What were the key drivers? What were the key drivers for you?
Well, I'd been looking everywhere for what I described my house by the sea. So whenever I was filming, particularly in Australia, where I'd been working quite a lot, I was thinking that I might, around the Melbourne coast or the Sydney coast or up in Queensland. I'd been looking there. I looked in South Africa. I'd looked in Cornwall. I nearly bought somewhere in Devon, etc., etc. So my idea was a house by the sea. And then when I was in Australia, I met the man who is now my husband, Michel. And To cut it all short, we started to spend time together, and he was coming down to Cannes for the film and television festivals and asked me to come, invited me down for a week. And while he was down here, I went looking along the Croisette and asked in the various rather grand estate agents if they had a house by the sea. And they said, mais bien sûr, madame, it's the south of France. What's your budget? And when I told them my budget, they said, not for that money, madam. So, then at the end of the week, when Michel had finished his work, he took me, we went with an estate agent inland to see what was available for my rather paltry sum of money. And that was basically nothing of any interest. So Michel said, well, why don't we look for a ruin? And so with this estate agent, we ended up coming to this olive farm, which was a jungle. You couldn't hardly see the olive trees. You certainly couldn't see the old vineyard. And the rather lovely Art Nouveau house was beginning to crumble. The balustrades were falling apart, and the swimming pool was covered in ivy. It needed everything doing to it, and it was something like 5 times my budget. But we fell in love with it. It has a beautiful view over the Bay of Cannes. And it was obviously meant to be, I mean, it's completely changed my life. All these books, all this traveling for the secret of the olive tree and its history and everything. None of that was meant to be on my dance card, let's say. But it all changed. It all changed when we bought this place.
Uh, Given what you know now, would you do the same again?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I mean, looking at it now, I can see that it's been a complete madness in many ways, but it has given me, I've cut a very individual path, which, I probably would have done something much more conservative within the acting world, stayed in television, made series, gone on tours and things like that. But this has made me cut my own path. I've, chosen to go around the Mediterranean on my own in search of the history of the olive tree. I've made a series about that with Michelle. I've written the books that go with that. I've written other books. I mean, I always wanted to write, so that is not a surprise. But all the Mediterranean history and the culture of the Mediterranean and the scents and the flavors and all those things that come into my books, none of that was necessarily anything that I had ever thought. I always knew I wouldn't live in England. That I knew for sure. I thought I had a place in Ireland and I thought I might just settle there, which is where my family's from. But the Mediterranean kind of called me. And then when we found this place, it was sort of set in stone, really. I was ready to go.
Oh, it did. It's an amazing place. It's a little corner of paradise.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have such a long search to find this. I just hunted around France. Uh,
Where are you?
in Nice, in Nice,
You're in Nice, right?
only a stone's throw from Cannes.
Right, right. But Nice in the city.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a
Mm.
city person. I couldn't contend with what you contend with. And if anybody wants to read your books or listen to them, because the audio books are absolutely stunning. They're really good. and they're such easy things to listen to and relax to. So I recommend
Thank
it
you.
to anyone. Honestly, I really would. Anyway, that's a digression. When we talk about the building and all you went through, uh, would you have settled for something smaller or more manageable, or are you happy that you took on such a big project?
I think in its time it was absolutely right. I mean, we discovered we had 68 more than 100-year-old olive trees. We now have over 300.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, if I was starting this now, I couldn't take on. In fact, we are actually thinking that probably what we should do is have less land, and because we're on a hillside overlooking the bay, so and a lot of it is en restant, those old dry stone wall terraces with the olive trees growing on them. So, it's hard traipsing, and I'm not getting any younger or any fitter. So, I don't now, I probably, if we were looking now as a retirement place, I probably would say we need less land and maybe a slightly bigger house, or less land and the same size house, or whatever. I wouldn't want to be in a flat, and I wouldn't want to be in a small house. I love the land, and I'm very, very attached to nature. I mean, if you've read, as you know, in the books, I mean, my relationship with everything to do with nature is extremely important to me. So, that will always be something I want. Wherever we went, I would want somewhere that I was able to touch base with the bees and the pollinators, and, all the things that are growing, and growing our own vegetables and having our own olive oil. And those kind of things are immense gifts, and I find them very inspiring and very, very relaxing as well. I find the whole process of the cycles of nature very it's like sitting by the sea and listening to the waves come in and out, that cyclic music of water hitting stones and turning them over. I find that very beautiful, and the same is true of the growing of the land and nature. So I wouldn't want to be without that. I now think that perhaps at our age, it's getting to be a little bit more challenging. So we'll see what happens in the future. But I certainly don't regret that at the time we bought as much. I mean, we bought the land in bits. We didn't buy it all at once. We couldn't have afforded it. So we bought the house with 12,000 and 12,500 square meters. Then we bought another 12,500 square meters. And then we bought another 5,000 square meters. So it's kind of 30,000 square meters altogether, which on a hillside and down here is quite a chunk of real estate, I think.
Do you have help? You must have help.
We don't actually have a lot of help. A, because our incomes are so erratic that, we did have someone who worked with us called Kwashia, who was with us for, about 25 years, but he went back to Algeria to retire, and he's now died. He died this year,
Okay.
90.
Yeah.
So we'd never replace him. I mean, he was guardian angel of the land. He was the guardian angel of the olive farm. He absolutely was.
He features
So
in books as well.
he's in the books,
Features in your
exactly.
books, yep.
Yeah, but we do have people that come. I mean, I have a cleaner who's been with us for 15 years, and she's much more than a cleaner. She does clean, but she's also much more than that. She's almost a friend, as it were, and a great support. And we have chaps that come in and help and do odd bits of work and stuff like that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible.
So,
Yeah.
how do you find the time to write? Because you write a lot and you are busy. You're on tour here and there. You go back and forth. How do you find the time to devote to writing? Because it's a lonely,
Well,
slow.
that's the priority.
Oh,
That's the priority. If the other things get in the way, then they have to somehow be pushed out or left aside. The most important thing is that I do my creative work. If it's off doing a play or whatever it happens to be. I mean, that's less the case now, and because I choose it less. But the writing, that's the priority. I mean, I have to make the time for that, and everything else has to be pushed back for that first.
now we did talk about an educational series, the book My Stories. Can you tell me a bit more about that? That was really interesting. How did you get the
Well,
idea?
a very long time ago, when I was with a different agent, it must be 25, 30 years ago, Scholastic, which is one of the biggest children's publishers in the world, originally American, but they're all over the place. the London base, contacted my then agent and said, we're looking for writers who we want to do a series that's been very popular in America called My Story, which is about my story being one person, a witness to a particular period of history. And this editor said to my agent at the time, we're looking for English, it's been done in America, but we're looking for English stories. So I came back and Sophie said to me at the time, would you like to do one? And I said, I'd love to. And I came back with the idea of the Irish potato famine. And she said, but that's not English history. And I said, oh, it most certainly is.
Mm.
And of course it is, because it was colonized. Ireland was colonized. I'm Irish passport holder and everything. So, Ireland was colonized by the English, that's by the Brits. So I wrote this first one, the Irish potato famine, from the point of view of a 13-year-old girl whose family are losing the potato blight in Ireland in the 1840s, hits them like everyone else, and they're starving. She goes to work up in the big house, and then finally they all go to America at the end of the book, those that live. And it was a huge success. It's still taught in schools now
Wow.
around the world, particularly in countries like New Zealand and Australia, where they have, quite a large Irish diaspora. So that did very well. And so I went on and did another 4 or 5 for them. And I love doing them. First of all, I love the research. I love spending hours digging around, trying to find out the history. I mean, that one, the Irish potato famine, was particularly close to me because of the Irish heritage and everything. But I've done suffragettes. I've done the beginning of the film industry in France and England, and when in 1900 it was called the turn of the century or something, 20th century girl it was called. So it started on the 1900, on the birth night of 1900. And it's about the start of moving pictures, the very, very first images of the Lumiere brothers. And this young girl goes to see them, and then she becomes her aunt is a suffragette, and she gets into it. And so the stories, that and the suffragette, they all kind of come together. So it's like a big kind of epic drama, as it were. And I love doing them because it has been a wonderful opportunity for me to research those periods of history. And one of the things I do love when I'm writing is all the background material that I can accrue and learn about and go traveling to discover. Because, it's a journey for me. And if I'm not excited by the journey, then I can't expect my reader to be.
Exactly.
I want to take them on an exciting adventure, whether they're 13 years old or 80 years old or 40 years old. I want them to come on an exciting, adventure with me. So that's my Scholastic, My Story series, yes.
I mean, your output's absolutely amazing. It's astonishing, really, in my view. I mean, 2 or 3 books is one thing, but a whole pile of them is something quite incredible. And
25, I think. I think the new one Summer in Provence, the one that's just been published, I think that's the 25th. Might
Wow.
be 24th, but it's 24th or 25th, yeah.
So, what sort of writing routine do you adopt? I'm going to ask that question because I'm curious.
Um, when I'm writing, I mean, I haven't been at the moment because I've been, off promoting this new book, One Summer in Provence. I start early and I work through till about, when I say early, it can be something between 6 and 7. And I will work through till about 2 p.m. And then I will stop, have something to eat, maybe swim, work a bit on the land. And then I'll come back to it around 4 or 5 to go back over what I've done and prepare my mind for the next day. So I'll do that till about 7 in the evening. And then I just push it aside and have the evening, and that's free of it. Of course, it never is because it's working away in your head. So that's my working day, really.
Yeah. Are
Um,
you a good editor? Do you enjoy the editing process as much as writing, or is it a chore?
Depends who my editor is.
No, no, you don't self-edit. You obviously give it to an editor.
Oh, that's if you're under contract to a publisher, you
You
have to
have
give it
to.
to an editor. Yeah, that's part of the deal. Yeah, no, that's part of the deal. But you have editors that are, I mean, if an editor likes your work, then the likelihood is they're not going to rip it to pieces and say none of this, because they like your work and that's why they're contracting you. No, I mean it's with a good editor, an excellent editor, it's a marriage. It really is a very important relationship. And if you're less, let's say, in harmony with them, it's much harder. But I've never had any difficulty. I mean, way back when I was much younger and I didn't really understand the nature of it, I saw editing a little bit as a criticism. And of course, it's not that at all. You know, it's about, as I say, together honing a piece of work that is already there that both agree will be published, you know. So I'm very fortunate. I have a very nice editor who called Sarah Hodgson, who has worked on One Summer in Provence. I like her greatly, and I think that she's made some excellent suggestions for the book. I had an editor called Alan Sampson, who is one of the kind of giants in the business, who did all my memoirs, the Olive Farm series. I mean, he's famous more for nonfiction than fiction, though he's, equally adept at both. So I've been very fortunate with my editors. I'd be very nervous of going into a relationship with an editor that I didn't know at all and didn't know their work, because it's like when you go on stage, you're working with another actor or a director, and if the rapport between you isn't good, it's difficult.
Hmm.
Mostly it is good. It's only occasionally that it's not good. Mostly it's good.
So, what does the future hold for you, Carol? Have you got anything that's really a burning desire that you want to accomplish in the near future?
Well, I have a book to deliver by the end of the Christmas holidays, so I'm halfway through that now. I hope a bit more than halfway through. So that will be that, and I've got several short tours for One Summer in Provence, the new one, which I'm going to various festivals around England and Ireland. So I'll be doing that on and off throughout the autumn and working on the new book, which, as I say, needs to be delivered at the end of the year. So that's the primary focus for the immediate. My theatrical agent called me the other day and asked about, well, he didn't ask he said that he'd had a request to know my availability for a television series,
Oh,
um, which may, or I mean, I doubt that it will happen. You get availability checks quite frequently. So that's a possibility. But I really would like to do, I mean, I love doing, I did a series called Carol Drinkwater's Secret Provence about 2 or 3 years ago. And I love doing that. And they asked me to do another one. And for various reasons, it didn't work out. But I'd love to do some more like that. I love the idea. I didn't think I would, but I love the idea of being Carol in front of the camera rather than in character, rather than Helen Harriet or whoever it happens to be, and taking people on a journey, because that is quite like writing, it's except you're physically there in front of the camera saying, come with me, I'm going to show you this part of Provence, or I'll take you around the Mediterranean, or, I'd love to take people on journeys around the Mediterranean on camera and take them to some of the extraordinary and very, very out of the way places that I know that no tourist would know, and most travelers would not necessarily find. I mean, that for me is great excitement. So I'd love to do another series like that.
oh, you have me intrigued, completely intrigued. I'd love to know those places, but if you told me, then everybody would know, wouldn't they?
Exactly. Then I wouldn't have the material for a television series. I get there, oh, you're all here.
It'd be like one of Mykonos or somewhere like that. By the time
Yeah,
you get there with
yeah,
Instagram photos everywhere.
yeah,
Oh, well, I guess our time is probably up, Carol. And I just really, really want to thank you. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight,
yeah.
great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
And so what we do now is we maintain our smiles while I go and hunt for the off button.
Okay.